Welcome back to the Archives, traveler. In the history of the Meridian, there is a lesson often learned too late. Fate does not lead you to safety. It drags you to the anvil where you are needed most. The next morning, the village of Aurelia's Rest woke to a different kind of tension. The brothers were preparing to leave. Their target, Iron Cove. They needed to find the trail of the traitor, and the industrial city was the only place with the records and the transport to get them to the Sun Vault in the north. But as they packed their supplies, the perimeter guards shouted an alarm. From the dense tree line to the east, 7 figures emerged. They moved with a silence that unnerved the guards. They wore armor grown from living wood and cloaks woven from shadows. Elves, the Watchers. They had not been seen in the open since the Great Betrayal 53 years ago. When the armistice broke, the Elves had blamed humanity for the failure and retreated into the deep woods, severing all contact. For them to walk into a human settlement now, it was unprecedented. The brothers met them at the gate. Kylister's hand rested on his sword, Lyra ready to spell. But the Elves did not draw weapons. Their leader, an elder mage with eyes like ancient moss, spoke. He told them that the Elves had been watching. They had seen the red sky break. They acknowledged the kill. "You have bought the world a breath," the elder said, "but the lungs of the Meridian are filled with smoke. We know of the shifting. We know of the half-bloods." The Elves proposed an alliance, though not of steel and blood. They did not trust humanity enough for that yet. Instead, they offered an exchange of secrets. The elders would retreat to the archives to uncover the forbidden origins of the half-blood. Only once the truth was known would they decide whether to join the war or remain in their silence. For now, their aid was limited to a single offering, an outrider. The elder gestured to one of their own. A female elf stepped forward. She was young by their standards, barely a century old. Her eyes were sharp, restless, burning with a curiosity that her people considered a flaw. "This is Valory," the elder said. "She sees paths where we see only trees." Valory carried a recurved bow of white ash, but the archivist notes a peculiar detail. She carried no quiver. Her back was bare. To the uninitiated, she looked unarmed. To those who know the old magic, she was a battery waiting to discharge. Valory looked at the brothers. She knew what this was. This wasn't an assignment, it was an exile. She was too radical for the isolationist elders, so they were sending her away to die or succeed with the humans. She accepted her fate with a nod. But she was not the only straggler drawn to the brothers' flame. In the chaos of the refugee tents, a shadow fell over the group. The ground trembled with heavy, deliberate footsteps. Tharok Skar'n, a Rhinarchan mercenary, a species known for their brutal honesty and their skin like iron plate. Tharok had been in the valley when the Spire fell. He had seen the thralls scattering. He had seen the brothers walk out of the dust. He approached Kylister, towering over him at 2.10 meters. He did not bow. He simply grunted. "You kill good." His voice was like grinding stones. "I will follow you." Tharok was a tank in the truest sense. His shield was a grim masterpiece of his culture, a slab of reinforced steel covered with the thick, gray, leathery hide of his own father. To wield it was to be enslaved by it. A rusted chain shackled his arm to the shield's mounts. This tether turned his defense into a ranged weapon. With a roar, he could throw the shield to decapitate a foe, using the chain to whip the steel slab back into his hand before the next blow fell. In Rhinarchan culture, death is not the end of service. When a patriarch dies, his skin, toughened by a lifetime of war, is tanned and bound to the shield of his successor. It is called the Ancestor's Guard. It is said to possess a residual will, reflecting the pain of the world back at the attacker. In his other hand, Tharok held a massive glaive, its blade carved from the horn of the same fallen father. He was walking lineage, a warrior of grief and duty. And so, the duo became a quartet, a swordsman and a warlock seeking truth, an exile with an empty bow, and a beast wearing his father's skin.
Iron Cove was far. The land between Aurelia's Rest and the coast was impassable on foot, a graveyard of old wars. The elder elf mage offered one final contribution before vanishing back into the woods. He raised his staff and sang a low, vibrating note that resonated in the brothers' chests. It was a calling song. From the clouds they descended, two massive silhouettes that blotted out the sun. Veilwyn, the wind-veiled, a rock of white and gray feathers, vast enough to carry an ox, and Serathiel, the silent feather of night, a rock of midnight blue. The party mounted up. Kael and Lear on Veilwyn, Valory and Tharok on Serathiel. They launched into the sky. The journey revealed the true horror of the current age. The sanguine veil had not yet covered the globe. That end was still years away. But the demon lords were impatient. As the rocks flew south, the sky began to darken. They were entering cursed land. The territories of 3 separate demon lords bordered each other here. Their individual shadow curses had bled together, forming a continuous corridor of eternal night. The sun vanished, the air turned cold and tasted of ash. But the sovereigns claimed the sky as well as the earth. As they crossed the jagged peaks of the Razor Mountains, the ambush struck. A screech tore through the air. From the supernatural darkness above, a swarm of winged thralls, harpies and gargoyles twisted by void energy, dove upon them. It was here, in the freezing air, that the brothers proved who they were. A harpy, screeching like a banshee, dove for Kael. Kael did not hesitate. He drew his sword. He waited. He timed the dive. As the harpy extended its claws, Kael sidestepped on the rock's back, a maneuver that would have sent a lesser man plummeting to his death, and swung. The steel bit deep. No magic, no flash of holy light, just physics and strength. The harpy was bisected, falling away into the mist. Kael wiped the black blood from his blade and readied for the next. On the second rock, the alliance was tested. A gargoyle, made of living stone, slammed into Serathiel, pinning the rock's wing. The rock plummeted. Valory stood up. She did not panic. She raised her bow. She drew the string back, and the air around her hummed. From the empty air, she pulled mana, Nirn energy, condensed into the form of an arrow. Silver-green light crackled between her fingers. The arrow flew true, burying itself in the gargoyle's eye. It didn't just pierce, it detonated. A flare of silver-green fire blew the monster's head apart. Valory drew again and again, arcane energy, firing faster than any archer with a physical quiver could hope to match. Tharok, seeing the rock struggling to stabilize, unhooked his massive shield. Another gargoyle tried to flank them. Tharok didn't block, his shield bashed. The Ancestor's guard slammed into the demon. The impact was thunderous. The Rhinarch roared, his muscles bulging as he shoved the stone beast off the rock, sending it crashing into the mountainside. They stabilized. They regrouped. They survived. They cleared the mountain range, but the sky did not clear. The chain of curses was thickest here. Below them lay the coast, and there, beneath a sky of sick, churning green energy, sat the great city of Iron Cove. The brothers felt a cold dread settle in their stomachs. Iron Cove was a fortress of industry, a sprawling complex of stone walls and black iron foundries, encased in a dome of smog and arcane magic. Towers belched smoke into the green void above, and the roar of furnaces battled the screech of the siege. It was an island in a sea of monsters. Because Iron Cove sits at the intersection of 3 territories, the darkness was absolute, and below the walls the armies were waiting. 3 distinct banners flying among the horde. The demons were coordinating. But in the center, towering above the rest, was a banner depicting a gaping, tooth-filled mouth. Voragath, the sovereign of the Maw, the Lord of Gluttony. Voragath does not just kill, he consumes souls. The defenses of the city were active, flak cannons firing into the green sky. The rocks could not approach the walls, they would be shredded. There was a gap in the siege lines, a narrow choke point 500 meters from the main gate. It was a suicide run. The rocks dove, the wind screamed. Just meters above the ground, the party jumped. They landed in the mud, weapons drawn. The rocks pulled up and banked away, leaving the 4 of them alone at the edge of the horde. The enemy saw them. A roar went up from the Gluttony army, a sound like 1,000 starving stomachs growling at once. They ran. This was the breach run, 500 meters of hell. A wave of biters, small, fast demons, swarmed them. Lear slammed his staff into the ground. A shockwave of force threw them back, clearing a path. Kale took point. He was a whirlwind. His sword was a blur, severing limbs and heads with surgical precision. He fought with the efficiency of his father. No wasted movement, no flashy spins, just death delivered by a single hand. Tharok stepped in. The Rhinarch caught the beasts on his shield. The Ancestor's guard groaned under the pressure, glowing a deep, angry red. Tharok held the line. "Go!" Tharok bellowed. Valory slid across the mud, passing between Tharok's legs. She came up in a crouch, her bow glowing blindingly bright. She fired her arrows, clearing the path. The brothers sprinted for the city gates. The guards on the wall, seeing the insane bravery of this small band, began to crank the massive chains. The iron doors groaned open, just a crack. The party slipped through. Tharok was the last one in, dragging his shield as the biters snapped at his heels. The gates slammed shut. The locking bars fell into place with the sound of a thunderclap. The city was holding the line, but it was breaking under the weight. The impossible was required, and the impossible has arrived. The archives are now closed.